We've also started to get into the 21st century, a Bitcoin strategic reserve. We're not going to be buying that, but we are going to use confiscated assets and continue to build that up. We're going to stop selling that. I believe that Bitcoin reserve at today's prices is somewhere between 15 and 20 billion.
What's going on, everybody? Aaron here from the Bitcoin Bros. And that was Scott Bessent talking about how the U.S. government will not be buying Bitcoin. And you can see from this tweet right here, he quickly backtracked on that. He says, in addition, the Treasury is committed to exploring budget-neutral pathways to acquire more Bitcoin to expand the reserve and to execute on the president's promise to make the United States the Bitcoin superpower of the world. So the United States government is not playing around about buying Bitcoin. They're actually looking into this. And because Scott Bessent misspoke in the interview earlier, somebody told Scott that, hey, you need to go out in public and say, we're actually looking to acquire BTC. So behind the scenes, there are people in the government who want Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset and want to add more to the strategic reserve that they already have. And in today's video, we're going to get into MicroStrategy, Bitcoin ETFs, the traditional news that just came out. We're going to be getting into a lot in today's video, so make sure to stay tuned. But you can see Kyle buys BTC. This is so boring, about to jump ship and full port ETH companies. So a lot of people in the MSTR community, a lot of MSTR holders are fed up with the price action of Strategy. The price right now is down 5%. We're at 372. They have 628,946 Bitcoin. The MNAV has fallen down. You look at enterprise value to around 1.62. And people are very upset about the recent price action. And we have said on our channel for the past year and a half, Strategy is a long-term investment. You cannot expect to buy Strategy and expect it to go to $1,000 in 2 or 3 months. We're holding Strategy for the next 4 to 5 years. We believe Bitcoin will hit $1 million. And if you look at how much Bitcoin Strategy has right now, around 628,000, they'll definitely have more in 4 years' time. And Bitcoin's at $1 million. You do the math, and then you can kind of calculate where you think the MNAV will be. And it's going to be higher than where we are today. And this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. I'm just a guy on the internet, so take that for what it is. But if we look at the most actively traded U.S. stocks, right now we have Strategy in the top 10 at $5.62 billion of trading volume. Good to see there's still a lot of volume, even though we're having a bit of a down day here for Strategy. And we're currently rated number 98 on the top 100 U.S. market cap companies. So still in the top 100 there. S&P inclusion potentially coming later this year. That is something that we have to watch out for, those passive funds that Strategy could then use to buy more BTC. So that is coming pretty soon. And then I want to go ahead and get into some of the big news that came out today. And there was a scare in the market. PPI inflation data came out 3.7% versus 2.9% expected and 2.6% from the previous month. So this is not good. Some people are saying that this is because of the tariffs, that now we're starting to see inflation go back up. And the next key date that we have to watch out for is going to be September 11th. That's when we're going to see the next CPI number. So if we see CPI do the same thing that PPI did and it gets very hot, that's not going to be good for markets. And as you can see from this chart right here, month over month PPI inflation surges to 0.9%. to the highest since March of 2022. And my thoughts on this are, if inflation goes back up and it's like the inflation that we saw in 2022 and CPI goes back up, the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates, and that's going to cause a strain on the market, just like what we saw in 2022. So that is something to keep in mind. My personal opinion, I don't think that is going to happen. I don't think inflation is going to resurge. But if it does, the Fed will probably raise interest rates and the market will suffer because of that. But me personally, I'm not thinking that inflation will do that. I think this may just be a blip on the radar, a bit of volatility here. But it's something we definitely have to pay attention to, because if CPI comes back alive and we see the inflation that we saw back here, That's not going to be good for Bitcoin or any other asset, just like we saw back in 2022. Obviously, if we get the United States government buying Bitcoin, that can cancel all that out, but it is something that we have to pay attention to. And then you can see right here, the Bitcoin ETF flows from yesterday, they inflowed around $87 million. Pretty good day for Bitcoin, so that's taking up all of the supply from what the miners are getting a day, 87 million plus some. And then you can see the Ethereum ETF flows. The Ethereum ETF flows are around $730 million. So one thing I want to talk about, this past week, we've just seen massive inflows into the Ethereum ETFs. I think this is just around the Ethereum price going up. Tom Lee starting his company, his Ethereum strategy company. And in my personal opinion, I think this is going to do very well in the short term. I think the Ethereum treasury companies are going to do well. I think Ethereum's going to do well. But the long-term potential in Ethereum versus Bitcoin, I think is a lot different because Bitcoin is just digital gold. Bitcoin could really replace everything as the world reserve asset. Ethereum is the world computer, and we're not even really sure yet if Ethereum is going to be the world computer. You know, you hear Tom Lee talk about stable coins this, stable coins that, but like, is that going to be on a layer 2, or is that actually going to be on Ethereum base chain? Is Solana a better option? Is Cardano a better option? There is a lot to be discussed there. So just because you're seeing these flows, this has been a trend change here as of late, but I think a lot of this is just hype. This is my personal opinion. I think that Bitcoin is being vastly underappreciated right now when you're looking at the Bitcoin flows versus Ethereum flows over the past week. But I think that this is going to slow down eventually and Bitcoin is going to overtake it again in the future. It's just, part of the cycle in my personal opinion. And then to give you guys an update on some Bitcoin treasury, there's a lot going on from Bitcoin treasury, so I can't get into all of them. But Sequan says that they're trying to get 100,000 Bitcoin by 2030. So another company trying to get a massive amount of Bitcoin. And the Parrot Taxi Holdings is going public, and they plan to deploy up to 640 million into Bitcoin. This will be a Bitcoin treasury strategy in South Korea. So that's good to see. And we have DDC, BTC getting 120 new Bitcoin that they just bought. So a lot going on in the Bitcoin treasury space. Can't keep up with everything that's going on there. There's just so many companies buying Bitcoin, and they're looking out and they're trying to hold it for 5-10 years. So let me know what you guys thought about everything in today's video. Are you concerned about that PPI inflation number? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Appreciate you watching all the way to the end. My name's Aaron from the Bitcoin Bros. I'm out. See you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.
I'm advising everybody in the world that Bitcoin is digital capital. There's a revolution in the global capital markets, and traditional finance operates, 19% of the time for 10% of the world. That makes it a 2% solution. Bitcoin's a 100% solution.
Michael,
it's not partisan.
Michael, sorry
it's just
to cut
a good
you off.
idea.
Let me